Hey everybody, here's a quick word about our sponsors. First one being LASRApp. You can find them at www.lasrapp.com. They're a laser activated shot reporter. They're amazing what it can do, all of the things that you can do with it, multiple guns, multiple locations, any type of target. They have a smorgasbord of items on their website store. Check them out. Use the affiliate link below or on our website, CasualShooterPodcast.com, and use the code CSP 2021 for up to 15% off items not covered by the affiliate link. Next up, we have Gun Butter. I am one of those people that I clean my gun all the time because I feel like you've always got to clean the crud and put a fresh coat of lubrication on it. That's because of the stuff we had to use in the military. I didn't like it, but I have finally landed on something I can get behind, and that is Gun Butter. I did not shoot. I did not clean my gun at all at Nationals. I did not clean it after the match before Nationals, nor the match before that. And there's still gun butter oil on my gun. And I'm going to be using their grease on the lugs of my bolt gun. Next, we have HOIST. It is IV level hydration. It's clinically proven to absorb 110% faster than water. You've got all the right ingredients of your electrolytes that you need: magnesium, calcium, sodium, potassium. It's all in there. A little bit of sugar, but that mixes the right amount to make it absorb rapidly so it's not sitting in your belly and weighing you down. So check it out. Get hydrated, stay hydrated. And thanks for checking out our sponsors. It helps with the podcast. Welcome to this week's edition of the Casual Shooters Podcast, your premier podcast for the casual shooter. This week's guest won 5 USPSA National Championships in 2022, along with a U.S. and European IDPA championship. Since 2010, he has won 16 national championships. He trails only Rob Latham as the winningest shooter in USPSA history. Everybody, join me in welcoming Nils Jonasson.
Thanks for having me on yet again.
Yeah, thanks for being back.
And I sound really important when you say it like that, like second behind Rob Latham. Those are pretty big shoes to fill, so I'll take it.
Yeah, and I was just counting them up right before we went on, and I think he has like 29 national championships. It's crazy number.
In USPSA, I think that's correct. I don't know if that factors all of his like IDPA and IPSC wins, but Robbie's been around for a couple of years, and he's literally win.
Oh,
what the heck?
And now it looks like you're back on your computer.
I am actually using my computer as a kickstand for my iPad, so we're going to try this one more time. I have all the technologies. I actually know what I'm doing, but yeah, it is not going smoothly. So we roll with it, just like everything. We roll with it.
Exactly. All right. So we were when you decided to leave, you were just saying how Rob's been, in the business for a couple of days. Oh, yeah. Goodness.
No, I mean, Robbie's obviously a legend. I grew up watching Robbie shoot on film, and then we ended up actually moving to Robbie's home club, unbeknownst to us. So I've shot with Robbie for over 20 years, and I've only been competing for 21. So it's been a privilege kind of watching him over the years and learning from him. So to be even in the same sentence as Rob Latham is pretty neat for me.
Okay. He's also a tall guy.
He is. I think he's 6'2", 6'3". He's about my height.
Yeah, he's pretty tall. Because we've had the last time you were on, we had that conversation about watching the production national or production super squad back in 2020, and everybody was like 6'5", it seemed like.
right? I mean, we got what, me, Mason Lane, Phil Strader, JJ Rakaza. I mean, he's shorter than us, but like he's still, I think, 6 foot, 6'1". Like he's a pretty big guy. So yeah, you're right. They're pretty monster
Max,
people.
Jacob, yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's
Well,
tall.
Jacob's just a little guy, but he
All
makes
right.
up for it in fighting spirit.
Yeah, he's not a bad shooter for sure.
No, Jacob's amazing.
Now we did all the personal questions the last time you were here, so we'll skip all that. Before we get into the Canik stuff, so last year was pretty magical for you.
Yeah, last year is the best year I've ever had in the competitive shooting world. I ended up winning a total of, I think, 6 national championships and a world speed shooting championship in 1 year, which I've come close to that. I think my record before that was either 4 or 5 national championships or like majors. But yeah, 6 and 1 definitely outdid anything I did in the past, and might be a record for the industry as well.
Yeah, when I was looking earlier, I don't believe anybody, when I was looking, has won 4 USPSA National Championships. I mean, pistol. I'm not talking
Right.
multi-gun in 1 season.
Right. I think the only people that you might be able to say would come close would be, obviously, Robbie could have done it. Dave Savigny could have done it, because both of those guys have shot so many different divisions through the years, and most of those, they'll bounce between divisions in the same year, much like I've done. So I think if there was anybody that would beat that record, it would have been either Robbie or Dave Savigny.
Right. Yeah, and they definitely didn't. But
not
I
this
see what you're saying. Yeah. So do you feel 2022 is repeatable?
It's going to be tough. I'm going to give it the old college try. And I've still got stuff I'm working on, because I didn't shoot perfect last year. Like, I didn't shoot a single match where I walked away thinking like this is the best I'll ever shoot. There's always something I can improve. So I'm still working on a bunch of different things. But from a performance outcome standpoint, from a final result, it will be tough to beat. And I've got my work cut out for me, because now I got a big target on my back again.
Yes. Yeah, as the defending champion, you're definitely going to have a big target. And it's interesting that you say that you never walked away feeling like you shot your best, because watching the super squads this year at Talladega, both the men's and the women's, that final stage, there was 3 of them within like 12 to 15 points of each other. It was literally a toss up. But when you guys went into the final stage at Carry Optics Nationals, you had like a 40-point lead.
So Carry Optics was the largest margin, with the exception of single stack nationals last year, the largest margin that I won by. So I knew, like, going into the last day that I had kind of a leg up on everyone, and just kind of held and maintained that lead going into the final stage. So I don't want to say I shot extra conservative, but I definitely knew that if I was to lose, it would have been me giving it away, not them taking it from me. And that's something really important to recognize when you're in that position, because it's very easy to get caught up in the moment and get excited and do something, I don't know, just for the sake of doing it, and then fail, and then you end up giving points away to your competition and making them very happy, which you don't want to do in the match.
Right. Now that brings up back when we talked last time, it was almost 2 years ago, spring of 21. And at the time, you were reading a book. I've got it written down here, The Mindful Athlete. And you were getting into the mental aspect of shooting. What you were describing about, staying in the moment, staying focused, not getting excited, all of that. Did any of that come from that stuff that you read and what you've been looking into?
For sure. Yeah, and there are several other good books I could recommend, but that's a solid book. Probably a better book if you're just getting into it would be The Inner Game of Tennis. It's a very thin book, not intimidating at all. I definitely recommend anybody that's interested in that aspect of sports performance to read The Inner Game of Tennis also.
We actually talked about that book after, because I don't know if you remember, but when we stopped recording, we stayed on and talked for quite a while afterward. And you mentioned that book. I actually bought it, so I've read it. What is it about that book that you like?
I just think it does a good job at explaining the difference between your performance and kind of what you're naturally inclined to speak to, like about yourself, like your inner thoughts or your I don't know. I'm not very good at describing that type of thing, but the conversation you have with yourself and how important that is, not from a lying to yourself or like a false expectation standpoint, but analyzing what you say and using it to your benefit rather than letting it tear you down.
So have you read With Winning in Mind by Lanny Basham?
I actually have not read that book, but I've heard it's very good.
Okay, because I'm wondering if it's very similar. Then it almost sounds like it's got some similarities. It talks about, it's a lot about self-image and not tearing down that self-image and keeping it where it needs to be at a higher level.
Yeah, you could say self-image. I would say it would be really useful when you're practicing, when you mess something up, using the mess up to learn from rather than get frustrated with it. I think as a training tool there, it's very useful. And then also there are things you can do in a high pressure situation that are very useful.
Now, you obviously, I mean, you're at the top of your game. Again, that's last year was very unique. At this point, I know you've posted some stuff on Instagram, like you just showed a video where you're merging positions and working on the steps you take, how you take them, and stuff like that. But how much do you still have to learn? Do you feel, let me rephrase that. How much do you still feel you have to learn about shooting? Do you still feel like there's a lot more for you to learn, or do you feel you have more to gain in the mental performance aspect of shooting?
I think I can learn, in every aspect of the shooting, whether it's the like core fundamentals and being more accurate, more consistent from a shot placement standpoint, from a movement standpoint or efficiency standpoint, which is what I was working on in that video. Because I'm kind of, or have historically been the shooter that'll run to a position, shoot as good a points as I can, and then run to the next position. And most of the time that pays dividends, but sometimes it's a benefit to shoot a target on a move or force two positions into one position from a time standpoint. So I've been working on that, trying to get better on the movement aspect. Stage breakdown, I've been pretty good at that for a while, just from the sheer number of major matches I've shot and stages I built at local clubs. And then obviously the mental side of it, you can always get better. So I think in all three of those areas, I can still improve. There's plenty of stuff to work on.
And so those guys, you mentioned recently that, the Canik Optics Nationals win was a proud one because of the amount of competition that was there. Mm-hmm. And you told me in a private message that you compared it to, I believe it was your 2014 limited win, because there was so much competition at that one as well.
Yeah.
So what of the things we just talked about that you feel, you can still work on and get better at, which of those things do you think gives you a better chance of beating those top level guys at another like Carry Optics Nationals where you're going to have 10 guys who could win it?
I mean, so 2014 Limited Nationals was the first, aside from single stack, was the first standalone nationals I remember competing in. So we had, 400 or 500 shooters all in one division. We had all of the best shooters across all divisions, all shooting limited, just like we had back in 2022 for Carry Optics. But with 60, 70 grandmasters and like legitimately 10 to 12 people that could actually win the match. Some people you knew of, some people you didn't. Like it's definitely exciting to be able to hold a high level of competition and performance at like a stressful situation like that.
Okay.
But as far as like which of those aspects will help me deal with that, I mean, again, all three. Like there's not just one, like the physical side of it as far as movement, like the pure skill, shot placement, and obviously the mental side.
And I've heard you talk about points and accuracy now a few times. When I was watching the Super Squad, when I was hanging around the Super Squad watching you guys shoot at Carry Optics Nationals, you were, I don't remember if you'd already shot or you were still waiting to shoot, but you were back by the picnic table and you were talking to somebody and you made the comment, it was like, once you shoot, 5 Charlies, you basically shot a miss at this point. And you were, I believe that's what you said, something like that.
It'll depend on the stage and the hit factor, but yeah.
Right. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting way to look at, a Charlie. And then I also heard you say on Tom Castro's podcast, comparing minor and major power factor, if you shoot 10 Charlies at like limited nationals, and a guy shooting actual limited major power factor shoots 15, you're still down 5 points. So you seem to put a good bit of emphasis on accuracy.
Well, and in a situation like that, it might change how aggressive you'll be able to attack a stage. Like if they're shooting a bunch of targets on the move and dropping points on those targets, shooting minor, you don't have that luxury. So you either need to somehow magically be better than they are and shoot better points on the move, or find a way to shoot them from more of a stable platform to ensure better points. So you might sacrifice a slight amount of speed doing that, but if you can avoid dropping a bunch of points, it'll come out in your favor in the long run.
Okay. Going into 2023, do you feel that you learned more from limited nationals or Carry Optics Nationals?
So in the last year and a half, I've learned far more with regards to shooting a red dot than I have anything to do with iron sights. So I've shot iron sights for 21 years now. And it's only been in the last, and I've shot red dots for about 6 or 7 years. It's only been in the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, I actually figured out what I was doing wrong with the red dot and why I didn't like it and how to shoot it correctly. So I think between the two, I learned way more from the optics side, because I've always been good with iron sights. That's been my thing. But the red dot, I've always struggled. It's always felt slow. I always felt like I was, double confirming my sight picture, and I want to be shooting irons rather than the stupid red dot. So I think the last year and a half, I figured out what I was doing wrong, how to correct it, and that's made a huge jump in my optic shooting for sure.
How did you go about doing that? How did you figure it out?
So it's kind of an issue that people have that I've figured this out on my own, right? Not on my own. Sometimes the lessons you learn on your own, even if you heard it before, once you figure it out for yourself, is more of a sticky point for your brain. But no, for iron sights, you bring the gun up, you find the target, you transition your focus back to the sights enough to get a good enough sight picture, fire the shot, and then repeat the process. So my natural inclination, like my subconscious process, is to make that focus shift.
Okay.
And I've known that, right? Like that's nothing new to me. When I switched to my red dot, I would unconsciously do the exact same thing. And the result, the symptom for that was red dots are slow. Yes, I can be accurate with it, but like I'd rather be shooting iron sights because it just works better for me. And what I was doing was I was making that subconscious focus shift between the target and the sights, target and the sights. Except when you have a red dot, that's a complete waste of time, right?
Right.
With the red dot, you have the ability to leave your focus downrange on the targets and not make that focus shift. But my problem was I would make that focus shift so fast, like it wasn't perceptible to me right away. And I think maybe my eyes have gotten a little slower as I'm 33 years old now, like getting up there. But like to make that focus shift, it actually cost me like noticeable time now. Like I'm aware of it. So I became painfully aware of the fact that I was shifting my focus from the gun for no reason and then back to the targets and making that focus shift, just wasting time. So once I recognized that, I could force myself to leave my focus on the
back to the cell phone.
Back to the cell phone. Yeah, wide angle gave it away. So
yeah,
I guess let's pick back up where we left off. So once I figured that out, it opened up a whole new world with the red dot. My speed increased, my accuracy increased, my consistency with the red dot increased. And every once in a while, I would find myself drifting back to kind of like that subconscious focus shift. And I just remind myself, leave your focus on the target. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, just go back to what you know you're supposed to do. So that was my big breakthrough, like last year and a half with the red dot, for sure.
Now, when was the aha moment? Was it like during a match or during training? Or
that's a good question. It would have been during a practice session where it like really solidified that like, okay, you're messing this up big time. And then I just worked on that nonstop until I figured it out. And like I said, like that was an eye-opening moment. Like I knew that I, had like this kind of proclivity to do that, but I didn't know it was that bad.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But you got to remember, I've shot iron sights for over 20 years, right? Like that's my thing. Like that's what I do subconsciously, and I'm good at it. So like this red dot thing, like it's a mental shift for me.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's not unsimilar to me coming from more of a long range precision shooting background to now I'm shooting speed. You always want to go back to that, get that perfect shot. And it's like, no, you just need to be in this big square. You're okay. Shoot.
Right. Perfect is the enemy of good enough.
Yeah. Do you see yourself continuing down the road of more mental management type stuff?
I mean, I'm always going to work on it. Like every match is different. Every match has its own set of challenges. And somebody who was on their mental game the previous match, it might be a totally different situation the next. So that's a never ending cycle. Like that'll never stop. And that's something, I mean, I've been forced to deal with it just because of the high level of competitors I've had at my local club and then the sheer number of major championships I shoot. So it gets frustrating getting your ass kicked and you don't want that to happen. So you figure it out.
Yeah. Which is why you have a target on your back, because everybody's tired of getting their ass kicked by Nils. Like, somebody's got to stop this guy. This is ridiculous.
Right. Well, I mean, multi-gun. So multi-gun nationals last year was the only USPSA nationals that I shot and didn't win. I didn't even podium. I think Nate Sanchez won. I think that's how you say his last name. But Nate won the match. I think Daniel Horner was second. And then I got edged out by don't know if it was Tim Ackley or another one of the like predominantly intensive 3-gun shooters, and then I was right behind them in 4th. But I also didn't put a ton of time into 3-gun because my pistol schedule is so stacked. So I'm not terribly disappointed with that, but it still hurts to get crushed by people you can beat.
Yeah. And we had a conversation, a very brief one at SHOT Show about that, about World Shoot, where you qualified with standard, 4 years ago, and you really haven't put any time or effort into it. So you weren't necessarily as prepared as you would have liked to have been. So you didn't seem like you were, based on our conversation again, you didn't feel like you were as prepared as you could have been because it's not something you've shot in 4 years.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to put a lot of time into the 40 cal, which is what I shot in Thailand for the World Championship. But for Khalil, who won the standard division, and for Bro, who came in second, like I can't take anything away from those 2 kids. They're both out of the Philippines, and they both shot absolutely awesome. So I can't take away anything from either of those.
And looking at the standings, the shooters out of the Philippines seem to really make a splash at Thailand.
Yeah, they did extremely well. I don't know what they're putting in the water over in the Philippines, but they're doing something right.
I think JJ's taking some US steroids over there, and those guys are.
JJ's all natural. What are you talking about?
No, I'm just saying he's helping his fellow countrymen get better.
No, they both shot very, very well. If I had a gun that worked 100% and been practiced up for it, I would have been able to compete with them. But the speeds that they were laying down and like the frequency in which they connected, and had just incredible runs, with the amount of practice I was able to put in, I just couldn't keep up with them.
Now, what did you think of the stages over there?
So I've shot 2 world shoots in the past. The first being 2014 in Frostproof, Florida, and the other being 2017 in France. And I think between the 3 I've shot now total, this is probably the most simplistic world shoot from the standpoint of stage breakdown. So there were very few ways to, I don't want to say game the stage, but there weren't that many options. Like there were some difficult shots, there were some difficult moving targets, but the stages were pretty much run here, shoot this, maybe shoot this target on the move, and repeat. So there weren't a ton of options that I saw in the stages at this world shoot in Thailand.
Okay. I feel like with IPSC, they really kind of level the playing field a little bit with making you stay within the boundaries. And it really adds to either one, you've got to be quicker than everybody else, or like you're saying, you've also got to be very accurate in order to gain any type of advantage.
Yeah, I mean, accuracy definitely plays a role. I think it would be harder to place high in an IPSC major championship running minor compared to USPSA, just because generally their shots are more difficult. They have like shots that are stretched out farther, which might not make sense to some people, but it's really easy to shoot 2 Charlies on a 35-yard target. It's a lot easier to shoot alphas when it's 10 yards away. So
Right.
Like the stages play a huge factor there. But yeah, I guess they level the playing field a little bit. They also incorporate a lot more short and medium courses, where in the US we're used to like more long, drawn out, high round count stages. And out of every 6 stages, they only have one 32 round field course because they run the 3-2-1 format in IPSC.
Do you have any preference? Do you prefer theirs over the USPSA style, or does it matter?
I mean, I guess if I had to pick one, I'd pick USPSA, but that's just because that's what I'm used to shooting more. Everyone has to shoot the same stages. Everyone has the same shooting challenges presented to them. So I think from a competitive equality standpoint, it's the same. But I'm more used to the USPSA format.
Well, I know in 2021, Area 8, Keanu was trying to do the 3-2-1 format. I enjoyed the way it was. I enjoyed what he was trying to do. But I know he got some negative feedback as well. People thought that the round count was too low for a major match. But
well, when primers are $200 a thousand, maybe that's not a bad thing.
Right.
But no,
Now,
you can't please everybody. You can't please everybody. Somebody's gonna have a problem or complain. That's all right.
and now, how did you and Jessica enjoy Thailand?
Thailand was an experience. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. I saw I just had Mason and Kay on, and they went and went to like a zoo or whatever it was, and saw some elephants. They went to Thai Muay Thai fight, stuff like that. Did you guys get out and do any of that type of stuff?
So Jessica and I did make it to an elephant sanctuary, which was very, very cool. To watch, what's the equivalent of, a Ford F-150 just wandering through the forest and disappearing after 20 yards. Like,
and we are back in business.
Boom. Here we
easy.
are. All right. So you were saying you guys had the opportunity to go to a sanctuary, see a large animal disappear into the woods.
Yeah, the elephants were really cool. Traffic driving on the left side of the road is an experience. I didn't do it at all. Jessica did. So that was not bad, but definitely different than driving in the United States. We had some good Thai food, but Jessica's analogy is in the U.S., every place has a hamburger. Not every place has a good hamburger. So to find a really good hamburger in the U.S. takes some work. Same thing is true for Thai food in Thailand.
Now, did you guys eat any of the street food?
Very little.
Okay, I heard that's what I heard got people over there was the street food.
Yeah, we had our own issues, and Jessica may have had some water poisoning or food poisoning the day after the World Shoot ended, which is coincidentally our first vacation day because we stayed a few extra days in Thailand. Since we're there, it's a 26-hour flight. Might as well make the most of it.
Absolutely. Now, were you guys scheduled to have your off day of shooting on the same day?
Yeah, we actually shared the same schedule, same shooting zones, and our break day was actually day 1. So we had a longer preparation period than most, and then it was like one day after another, all 5 days of shooting after that.
I saw some people shot some matches before the match actually shot. Did you guys do anything like that?
We did. We shot one of their pre-matches or pre-World Shoot matches at a different range. And that was good just because I hadn't shot my 40 cal in like 4.5 years. So to put a couple rounds through it before actually competing in the World Championship was useful. I went from being a terrible shooter to not as terrible shooter by the time stage 1 of the World Shoot came around.
Oh, Lord. It's a good warm-up. All right.
Yeah.
Now, did you have an opportunity then did you confirm your 0 before you left, or did you get a chance to do anything with that? Do you have adjustable sights on your 40?
I do. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's the same 2011 Combat Master that Terran Tactical did and built for me before that I shot at the last World Championship, like 4 or 5 years ago, whenever that was, in 2017. So it's been a while.
Yeah, 5
so
years
it's
ago.
the same pistol I used then for this year. But I was running match ammo, which is a shorter overall length, and I had a couple of hiccups or a couple of jams with the pistol, but I'm sure that was more ammunition than anything else. But at the World Shoot, that doesn't help anything. But yes, I confirmed my 0 before I left, and also when I got there, when I actually test fired the match ammunition.
Okay. So you bought ammunition there when you got there.
Correct. Yeah, I brought my own and bought match ammo when I got there.
Okay.
You can never have too much ammo.
No, never. I assume that what you brought was a little better than what you bought.
It was similar. It was similar. I wanted to try and duplicate the match load in case I had to jump between the two. But you got to remember, I had just flown back from Italy, so all of the preparation I did for the World Shoot was in the 4 days between coming back from the IDPA national or the IDPA European Championship in Italy and flying out 4 days later to Thailand. So I had 4 days to, get my ammo situated, load it, proof it, and test functionality with the pistol. Not a lot of time.
No, not much at all. How much did the time change affect you? That's a lot of time changes from going West Coast or Arizona, Italy, back to Arizona, to Thailand.
Yeah, at that point I was all messed up. I didn't know what was going on. No, there were plenty of nights waking up at 1 a.m. Ready to go.
Oh.
So yeah, that's suboptimal for sure.
For sure. Terrible.
But yeah, World Shoot was interesting. The first day, it wasn't the worst I've ever shot, but it was pretty rough. And then like the second and third day, I started kind of getting the hang of the 40 cal with a different recoil impulse and figuring it out. And then I think by day 4, I actually won a couple stages, and I was getting back into the swing of things. But by that time, it was too late.
Okay. Speaking of recoil, now when you first started shooting the Canik, it was the original TP9 SFX. Right. When the Rival came out, it seemed much more balanced than the SFX. I guess, I don't know if it was just the 0.2 of an inch off the barrel. I can't imagine that was it. There had to be some other factors at play. But now they're coming out with the steel version. Obviously, each one, like I felt the recoil was different with the Rival, the polymer version. Now with the steel version, I'm sure you've shot all three. How much more does the recoil soften or even just change with the steel version?
It's a pretty significant change. You can control the polymer gun perfectly well, but you have to have a solid grip. You have to, manually control that recoil with the extra weight. So it's an extra 11.5 to 12 ounces of weight in the frame for the new Rival-S, which is the steel frame, compared to the original SFX Rival. So it's a 29 ounce for the polymer frame, 41.7 ounces for the steel frame. So it's a significant bump in frame weight. And the first thing you notice is how much softer the recoil feels. It's a much more subdued recoil impulse in the steel frame Rival. So it does a lot of the work for you, and you don't have to be as aggressive with your grip. Which means if you work the grip as effectively as you would with the polymer gun, the steel frame gun is going to shoot better.
Okay. Do you think that obviously you did very well with a polymer gun, even against all the guys shooting steel frame pistols as it was?
It did all right.
Do you feel like the Rival-S is just going to bump you up that much more in competitiveness?
I mean, like I said, it makes the shooting softer. The recoil impulse is softer. It's not all rainbows and unicorns, though. There's always a trade-off, right?
Right.
So you have the extra weight in the frame, but that also means you have to draw the gun with extra weight. You have to transition the gun with extra weight. So while on target at a static piece of paper or steel, it will feel softer, and it will probably be easier to be more accurate just because of the extra weight. You have to deal with the negative factors too. So there's a give and take with the steel frame and the polymer frame. Obviously, more weight has been a very popular trend in the competition world, like USPSA and IDPA and IPSC. But even though Canik now has a gun that's just as heavy as anybody else, and we could make it heavier if we wanted, there's still a give and take. There's still a cost benefit analysis that goes into it.
And that was the reason I was asking is I'm like, there are advantages and disadvantages. Do you feel like, I feel like you probably don't have to do much more with your draw with the different steel gun. I mean, I'm sure playing with it at SHOT Show, it felt the same as the rival polymer gun. So I didn't feel like my grip would change really at all. But when I was handling it, I was like, there's a pretty significant difference in weight. And my first thought was transitions are going to feel completely different. Do you feel like you're going to have to do more work on that to feel comfortable with that?
Probably. And that'll be something from a timing standpoint. Like transitioning a 30-ounce gun is going to be a very different operation than transitioning a 42+ ounce gun. So the amount of force it'll take to get it moving and the amount of energy it'll take to slow it down, and just working that timing and getting it kind of ingrained in your subconscious, it'll take a little bit of work, take a little bit of time. And I'll put it on the clock and see which one's actually better. Because if I shoot the polymer frame pistol better, I'll stick with that. But I think I'm hoping and I'm betting on the fact that a little bit extra weight in the gun, since points are so important, will be more of a benefit than the lighter weight. But we'll see. I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's the one thing my first thought was, man, stopping this thing on target might be a little bit more, might take a little bit more work. Getting it going, I don't feel like is the problem, but it's easy to move that polymer gun, around and do what you want. But man, that steel gun, I was like, man, that's gonna take a little bit of effort to get that thing to stop where you want and not overshoot or have it wobble.
Yeah, and it'll just be a timing thing I'll have to work on. The people with heavier guns that have been shooting them for a couple of years know what I'm talking about, if they came from a lighter pistol or a different pistol. So yeah, it'll be something I'll work on, and I'll keep you updated.
With Carry Optics Nationals being in June, do you feel like that's enough time to really work out all the kinks?
We'll see. I don't want to commit to anything, but so my steel frame rival is in the mail right now, so I'll have it. I should have it by early next week. So it'll be fun to put it side by side with the original SFX rival and do a time comparison. Because at the end of the day, like, marketing doesn't matter. Like, the clock matters, right? So I'll put it on the clock. I'll figure out, and I'll give it a chance, right? Because I want it to do well. So, but if the clock doesn't agree with it, the clock doesn't agree with it.
Interesting. Okay. Are you going to be, hopefully you'll be posting some videos of some of that comparison stuff.
Sure. Yeah. But from a recoil standpoint, the steel frame, by far and away, a softer feeling recoil. When we were doing the R&D stuff last time I was in Turkey about 6 or 7 months ago, we have some like factory NATO ball ammo. So it's about 156 power factor. It's damn near major. Shooting it through the polymer frame Canik is a chore. Like, there's some recoil there. The steel frame with that NATO ball ammo made it very, very manageable. So, you throw our bunny fart USPSA loads into it, and like, it's going to shoot really, really well.
I had some NATO ammunition that I had picked up. Holy cow, that I was shooting actually out of my SFX before the rival. And that was nuts. So I can only imagine. And it was dirty. Whoo, that stuff is dirty. I forgot how dirty that stuff is. Now, we also were talking about Canik coming out with a new optic, which is in their catalog that was at SHOT Show.
Mhm.
What optic are you running right now on your gun?
So right now I have the Leopold Delta Point Pro, and
Okay.
I've used, and it's the 2.5 MOA. So it's a little bit smaller red dot than some. Um, but I've shot that for like 6 or 7 years, kind of since I started shooting red dots in competition.
Now they don't have. So I was putting together a spreadsheet here of all the different what I would consider large window red dots,
Mhm.
and their window size is not one of the larger ones. Do you've never considered going to a larger window dot?
I have, and I own every red dot on the market. I've got the Sig Romeo 3 Max. I've got the Trijicon SRO. I've got the Hollow Suns, a couple other smaller brands, and the Leopold. Um, and I always seem to go back to the Leopold.
Okay, interesting. That's very interesting. What do you think about what do you think about all those large window optics? Do you prefer a larger? Again, like I was saying, the Leopold's not the biggest, so you seem to keep going back to it. Do you prefer like a medium size over a larger window?
I don't think it's the preference to a smaller window, because bigger is better, right? Like the more real estate you have on the glass to find the dot, like the better. And if you can keep the red dot in the window and not lose it at all during recoil and tracking, like that's best case scenario. What I like about the Leopold is the clarity of the glass and the minimal optical distortion that their optics have. So the dot clarity is good. The optical clarity is good. Like there might be better optics on the market, but to have one that's, good optically and durable, I haven't found one that's better than Leopold yet. Not sponsored
Okay.
by Leopold, by the way. on my 3-gun AR, I run a Trijicon AccuPoint 1-6. So
There you go. It's just a hodgepodge of whatever, whatever works. Now, I also saw that you posted a video recently of you loading a bunch of ammo in a short period of time. Yep, right behind you.
yeah,
And I noticed that it looked like you were loading copper jacketed bullets.
hmm
Do you always use copper jacketed bullets?
yeah. So I mean, I've loaded other projectiles, but I've run the 124 grain round nose hollow base Barry's 9mm for I don't even know how long, years and years. Like it's been a very consistent projectile for me, and I'm sponsored by Barry's Manufacturing, so they help me out with projectiles when I need them or when times are scarce. I can still get projectiles, which is very nice. But yeah, they've served me well over the years. And I like the 124 because it's like this happy middle ground. I've tried 115s, they feel pretty snappy. I've tried 147s, they feel slow and lethargic. The 124s have just been a real happy medium, a middle ground for me that I've always liked.
I feel the same way. I've tried some of the coated bullets,
Mm-hmm.
and I find that it's easy to get in trouble with them because the coating varies so much from manufacturer to manufacturer, the thickness of it from
Sure.
manufacturer to manufacturer, that it's, you can't, like, I feel like copper jacketed bullets, you can set your loader at a certain depth and it will always work. It doesn't
Right.
matter. But with the coated bullets, the different thickness, it's like you got to constantly change the length of the bullet, how far you're
Really?
seating them.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a long
So,
time since I've run coated bullets. One thing I've noticed with them is they have a tendency to be a lot smokier. So there's a lot more debris in the air from that coating. Where with either a jacketed or a plated bullet or a coated bullet with like a nickel or they would call it a plated bullet for the berries. Like it's encapsulated. Like there's no exposed lead. There's no powder or lubricant or particulate to burn off and get caught up in this cloud when you pull the trigger. So I think either the plated or the jacketed bullet is going to give you, especially in like bad lighting conditions, a better chance.
Okay. Yeah, actually,
but the those bullets you're talking about can be less expensive. I do know that, so I wouldn't fault anybody for running them.
No, absolutely not. It's just constantly having you just have to be mindful of what your overall length can be, because we weren't on some of ours, and then I end up having an out of battery detonation with one.
Yeah, it's not good.
No, and when I finally did all the research and called everybody and talked to everybody, including Canik, when I finally talked to the manufacturer of the bullet, I found out exactly what the issues are and why. And I was like, okay, now I know what the problem is.
Yeah, it is nice just being able to pour bullets in the hopper and go to town, not have to think about that stuff.
Yeah,
you still confirm overall length, but yeah, you're not as stressed about it.
So now with Carry Optics right around the corner, Nationals, we're already just 5 months away now.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like
because Carry Optics Nationals is June 23rd, 24th, and 25th, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So we're only 5 months away. What does your training and competition season look like?
Well, so I'm actually looking at a giant calendar right behind the camera. And so next month in February, I have the Caribbean Open, early February. And then I have the Western States Production Championships at the end of February. And then the only thing I've got budgeted for March at the moment is the Superstition 3-gun, which is in this area the largest 3-gun championship that we have. And then it starts getting busy in like April, May, June. Like Barry Steel Open, there's the NRA show in April. There's the Steel Challenge World Speed Shooting Championship at the end of April. Area 6 in May. The Northern Arizona Championship in May. The Rocky Mountain Regional IDPA Championship also in May. Area 5 early June. And then Carry Optics Nationals at the end of June. So, like, my match schedule, and that's not all of the matches I'll shoot. That's just everything I've got built into my calendar thus far. So, yeah, I've got a lot of stuff going on match-wise. And then training, I just try and work it in between the major match schedule.
Wow. That's crazy busy.
I shoot a lot.
Yeah, and what you got a world speed shoot in there, or steel shoot, and you've got, what was it, an NRA show you said?
Yeah, so the National Rifle Association has their annual meeting once a year. And last year it was in Texas. It might be back in Texas this year. I'd have to check the location of it. But yeah, Canik and Century have a booth at NRA every year, just like we have a booth at SHOT Show every year.
Okay.
So if you're at NRA, swing by the Canik booth and check out our stuff. I'd be happy to walk you through and talk about some pistols with you.
Does it look very similar to the SHOT booth?
Very similar. And just NRA in general is visually very similar to SHOT Show. But the demographic is very different. SHOT Show, it's a lot of dealers and distributors and like people in the industry. NRA is open to the public. So you got a lot of end users and you got a lot of people that want to come and check out the cool new stuff. So I think between the two shows, I prefer NRA better because I can relate to the end user and I'll just connect a little bit better with them. So if I had to choose between NRA or SHOT Show, I would choose NRA all day, every day.
I don't blame you. I was talking to Frank at Carry Optics Nationals. We had dinner a few times, and I know that Canik sponsors IDPA matches and IPSC are there any plans for Canik to do any USPSA like stage sponsors at nationals?
I wouldn't be surprised. Yes, last year we sponsored both the US IDPA Nationals. I think we were a stage sponsor for 3 or 4 stages. And then we were also the title sponsor of the IDPA European Championship in Italy.
Yeah, I saw that. And that looked like a pretty good production too. And Canik was everywhere at that match.
Yeah, we had a couple of booths set up. We had one for our gun side, and then Canik also does an apparel line called Me Canik. So they do jackets and shirts and pants and a whole bunch of apparel stuff. So we had a booth set up for the gun side and the apparel side.
Okay. I know that with the factory they're opening up there in West Palm Beach, they are building everything that they do in Turkey. So I kind of feel that they felt it was cheaper to build a factory in Florida than keep flying you over to Turkey.
Well, so right now, for us to do product development for new pistols, it is easier most of the time to fly to Turkey and back rather than ship temporary imports in to the U.S. and get permits and all that documentation taken care of. So I'm sure that'll definitely help with the R&D process for some new stuff.
You see yourself spending much time in West Palm Beach because of that?
It doesn't sound terrible, especially right now. I think Florida would be a little bit better weather-wise than out west here. I think yesterday we hit a high of like 45, 46 degrees. So even in Phoenix, Arizona, it's a little chilly.
Yeah. Wow.
Like
that
we,
is kind
we
of
hit
chilly.
30. We hit 32 degrees last night. Like that's freezing. Like might have to cover the pipes in another couple degrees.
Yeah, because you guys aren't. I'm sure you're not. The infrastructure is not prepared for sub-freezing temperatures there. They aren't in Houston. I know that.
Yeah, we don't have to deal with it that frequently, thankfully.
Yeah, right. Now, I was able to watch you. I was able to hang out with you and Frank a little more last year at SHOT Show, and I saw you there. Obviously, this year. Last year, you guys had moments where you could breathe and take it easy. It wasn't too bad, but this year was pure inundation. I mean, it was literally a sea of humanity. Now, when you signed up with Canik, did you expect to be doing this much public relations stuff with them?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. No, SHOT Show and NRA and the major like U.S. conventions were always part of our plan. Because we want to get out there in front of the public and showcase our products and talk about it and answer questions that people might have. But yeah, SHOT Show this year was crazy. I must have done 1,000 video interviews on new products, both for the SFX Rival-S and our new micro compact, the MC 9mm.
Yeah, I was talking to one of the Century Arms employees, and you were like, "Hey guys, do you mind stepping over here so I can do a video?" I was like, whoa, he is a busy man. And you'd already done a couple for me, so.
Yeah. But no, the booth was good. We gave away some pistols. We usually do a couple of giveaways each day. So we actually gave away a couple of steel frame rifles. So
I had no idea you were doing that. Now I feel cheated.
Oh, man. How did you not know we were doing pistol giveaways? Like you've been coming to the booth for years.
I don't know. I don't know. Last year though, you guys, or I'll say Century Arms, Canik, whichever name you want to use.
And for those of you that don't know, by the way, Century Arms is the sole importer of Canik firearms into the United States. So Canik USA is essentially Century Arms and Canik firearms together.
And last year they had like a poster, a big thing saying, on this day we're doing this and so will be here. Mm-hmm. But this year I didn't see anything like that. Like there was no advertising. We'll be doing this at 1 p.m. on Wednesday and Andre's going to be here to look mean on Thursday at noon,
Yeah, that's right. I don't think we had, definitely no big banners posted of the schedule. But people's schedules change, and that's kind of hard to keep track of. So to put a hard commitment out like that can be pretty demanding or taxing on some of these people. But we still had a lot of fun people there. Like Andre was there, who, if you don't know, is a UFC world champion. We had Black Rambo there and some other social media type people who are very entertaining folks to watch. So we still had some neat people stop by.
For sure.
And I was there.
And just for the audience, for those people who weren't there and who have not been there, Canik has the same hiring practices that being on the super squad requires, which is height. Adam is 6'10", Patrick's at least your height, and then you, and then Andre's 6'4", I think, 6'5".
I try not to look Andre in the eyes. I'm afraid he's going to kill me.
Yeah, I told you at the show. When I shook his hand, I looked him in the eye, and he was mean mugging me. I'm like, whoa, this is like we're staring down for the UFC heavyweight championship of the world. I'm just saying hello.
No, Andre's awesome.
He's funny. It's interesting though, because I saw now Josh Barnett is another former UFC heavyweight fighter, and I saw him last year walking around with Taryn Butler.
Okay.
So every now and then you run into somebody you see or you recognize from something else, which is interesting.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to walk around that much, but Rob Pincus stopped by and say hi at the Canik booth. Eric Referral stopped by several times.
It looks
my
like
friend John.
Go ahead.
My friend John McClain always stops by to chat and have a good time. So yeah, it's fun seeing people that either you only see at a couple of matches a year or you never see, except for SHOT Show. It's fun to see everybody in one place.
Yeah, I never saw Eric Griffel there, but there were a lot of people that I knew that were there that I never saw. Just again, the sea of humanity.
Right.
But the picture you posted of Eric almost looked like he was trying to steal trade secrets over there from Canik.
Sending like classified documents back to France.
Yeah.
Hey,
I got my eyes on him right now. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Prairie Fire rank. What did you think of that?
I won $25,000.
I know you did.
So Prairie Fire, this was the first year that they did this event, to the best of my knowledge. And Todd Jarrett actually reached out to me because he was responsible for doing a lot of the setup and the design, or working behind the scenes, and also bringing in some top shooters from around the country. So Todd Jarrett reached out to me and he's like, "Hey, we got this thing going on. You should come out and check it out." So Todd convinced me, twisted my arm to come to Texas to shoot this Prairie Fire thing, which turned out to be a really cool event. It was supposed to be a one-day match. For those of you that don't know what the course of fire was, it's essentially a bullseye target. Let me be right back. Get the target for you guys to check out.
While he's getting that, go back and watch a video I did with Lanny Barnes and explains all of this same thing.
So they have this bullseye style target, so Prairie Fire ranked target, set up at 15 yards, and they have 4 courses of fire. The first 2 are this target, and it's group shooting. Round 1 is freestyle, so you have 60 seconds to shoot the best group you can with 5 shots, and then the second portion of that string 1 or round 1 is I think a 10-second time limit to shoot another 5 rounds at another target, and then the combined score of those 2 targets would then qualify you for round 2. And if you made it to round 2, which only I think 64 people did, it was a strong hand, weak hand around a barricade, but very similar. I think it was 15 seconds strong hand, 15 seconds weak hand around this barricade. And then your score total from round 1 and round 2, they added them up, and you went to round 3. which is where stuff got fun. That was a man-on-man shoot-off, a bunch of steel knockdown plates, so plate racks, poppers, plates, and then crossing poppers to determine the winner. So after round 2, everything was a man-on-man style format. So a lot of really good shooters, because of how it was set up, didn't even make it to round 3. So people like me, to stand there and shoot one whole groups at 15 yards, it's something we can do, but it's not something we do very well or very much. So
Right.
you'd have, there's me. I barely made the cutoff for round 3. Then you have people like Doug Keating and Bruce Payette and people that are like super accurate pistol shooters. They were going to make the final 2 rounds no matter what. But there are also people that don't shoot competitions on a regular basis or ever, that you've never heard of, and they're also coming out and making it to the finals, or round 2 and round 4, or round 3 and round 4. And there were some really good USPSA style shooters that didn't quite make the cutoff for round 3 into the shoot-offs. So round 3 was man-on-man plates, and then I think the top 8 advanced to round 4, which was a similar format with a man-on-man and crossing poppers at the end, except instead of a 15, 16 round course of fire, it was a 40 round course of fire. So very elaborate, way more movement, lots of reloading. And then first place was 50 grand, second place was 25,000, and third place was 10,000. So the prizes were nothing to shake a stick at.
No, not at all. I mean, I had Lanny Barnes on, and we did like a 20, 30-minute video about it right before it happened. And I kind of feel like it could reshape the competition format in a way, especially if they do what they say they're going to do this year, which is 10 times bigger.
Yeah, so the talk is that they want to do a $1 million purse for the next event, which is scheduled to be sometime in 2023. I haven't heard dates or anything like that. But Prairie Fire just recently purchased a range in Nevada, so there's a chance that that event will either be at their facility in Texas, where this last match was held, or at their Nevada location.
Yeah, I that's the one person I did run into there was Lanny Barnes. And again, I mean, it's like everything else at SHOT Show. Every conversation is brief for the most part.
Sure.
And it was brief. And she's actually switched from what she was doing to working now with the group that bought Front Sight in Nevada. So it'll be interesting. I mean, if it continues, it's going to draw a huge field of people back to competing in that match.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you'll see a lot of people that you've never heard of kicking people's butts too. So it's fun to see like I don't want to say the average guy, but like people outside the competitive shooting world going toe to toe with, the JJ Ricazas and the Doug Keenings and the Jerry Micklicks. It's an experience for them, and it's also just cool to watch.
Absolutely. I'd like to see that thing streamed live. That would be a very interesting competition to watch.
Yeah, they had cameras all over the place, so I know there's a bunch of footage out there. I don't know if it's been posted, or much of it's been posted yet.
Yeah, I've been looking, and I haven't seen anything yet. I had a chat with Crystal Dunn, who was there interviewing. By chance, did she interview you while you were there?
She did.
Okay. Yeah, so I've been waiting for all of that stuff to come out. I haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, I saw one or two like snippets, but now that I think about it, I haven't done a Prairie Fire video yet myself, and I've got video from the whole event. So I'm working through my 2022 matches that I have footage of, which is pretty much all of them. So I just posted a Carry Optics Nationals and the Superstition 3-gun on my YouTube, which is Nils Jonasson at YouTube or whatever. So check that out if you want to see a couple of my most recent matches. But I'm working through last year's video and posting as I can.
I'll be looking for that then. That'll be an interesting video to watch. So what are your plans then after Carry Optics Nationals?
After CO, I'm going to switch back to irons and run that until production nationals towards the end of the year. Fortunately, I don't have to do a lot of transitioning back and forth this year. Carry Optics Nationals is early, it's standalone, so I'll work on nothing but the optics for the most part until the end of June, and then I'll transition to my production gun, or take my red dot off the gun and put the iron sight plate back on.
that is very convenient that it's the exact same gun.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. So it is production, not going to be single stack or anything else. It's production.
Yep. Yeah. Unless for some reason I want to defend my limited minor title. But this year USPSA has all of the iron sight matches combined into one. So L10 limited, revolver production, single stack, they're all one match. So last year they had it broken out into a couple of different ones, which gave me the opportunity to win an extra nationals. This year I have to choose, and I'll likely choose production.
Now Adam let it slip on a video. Well, he didn't let it slip. He came right out and said that they're looking at different calibers, and he mentioned specifically in the Lipsy's video 22 caliber. Now with them introducing the Rival Polymer, the Rival-S, and looks like delving more into the competition market, is it out of the realm of possibility that at some point down the road, after their factory's well established, everything's moving well, that they might at some point expand into a different caliber for competition?
It's possible. I can tell you that in the center fire caliber world, 9mm is by far and away the most popular. So in order for us to financially justify making a major shift in caliber or adding a line, it needs to make financial sense. And the question is whether or not we can find a caliber and find a platform that it makes sense with. 22 makes perfect sense. That'd be very popular to have like either a mid or a full-size training pistol where 9mm is $300 $1,000 for ammo. You can buy 500 rounds of 22 for $20, right?
Yeah.
So it's a huge difference, and you get the instant feedback from like a bullet going down range and hitting your target, which you can simulate to some degree with laser training systems in your house. But there's something nice about a projectile actually going down range.
Agree.
And for much less money.
Now, so that brings up the next part of this question, where obviously USPSA is looking to run limited optics for a year and see what happens. That is the one time if it became popular enough where I could see where Canik might be like, we could do a Rival-S 40 with the same thing, and then you could run it where it could be and keep the same mag size and dimension, magwell dimension. I almost feel you could almost make a steel frame gun that could run 40 or 9.
You
with
could.
A swap.
Yeah. So CZ has two frame sizes, right? They have a small frame and a large frame. The small frame is their 9mm. Their large frame is built around their 40 caliber. So like CZ mags are the same outside diameter as a Canik magazine. You see how the side wall of the mag is flat?
Yes.
That means in order for us to efficiently stack 40 cal in this magazine, which is a larger outside diameter, we would need a thicker mag body. And to fit a thicker magazine into a pistol, designed around a small magazine, I don't see that being possible. So if we did a 40, I would expect we'd have to do a custom designed frame for the 40 caliber. So it's not as simple as putting 40 cal in this magazine, which you can do, but the round capacity will suffer.
Right. So it's almost going to be a complete redesign anyway, then.
If we did a 40, yeah, it would more than likely be a redesigned frame.
Okay. Well, that makes sense then. And 2 years ago when we talked, you had no desire to get into teaching at all. Has that changed at all?
I mean, I have done some teaching over the years, and I'll still do it on a case-by-case basis with individuals for the most part. But my shooting schedule the last several years has just been, and like it was 2 years ago, has just been ridiculous. So as far as doing and marketing like public classes, it's probably still not something I'll do, at least in the short term. But I don't know. Never say never.
Okay. That's a change from 2 years ago. All right. So you're saying there's a chance.
I know there's a market for it, and I know that I have some useful information that people could use. But it's really a schedule constraint issue that I run into. So I'll have to pick and choose kind of when and where I would do something like that.
And I always go back to this, and I don't know that I'm ever phrasing it properly when I ask the question, but I feel like there is a market. I've been calling it stage breakdown, but I don't feel that that's the correct term. I think I came up with an accurate term one day and then totally forgot what I had come up with. But I feel like there is a gap between the highest level shooters and everybody else when it comes to shooting a stage and determining the minutia of what is critical and what isn't. And I think even when you look at a super squad, I think there is a difference between top and bottom there and how that is determined. Like even the stuff that I've heard you mention, like I was saying, the points versus speed, how to determine all of that, and I'll even go one step further. Let me minimize this.
So you're just talking about a stage breakdown or stage planning?
It's not even in a way, but it goes much deeper. Here we go. And this is where, so like the last video you posted talking about merging positions, taking a large step during the transition.
Sure.
At the bottom, you said merging and shooting positions / shooting on the move is important, but not if shooting speed or accuracy is impacted beyond what's acceptable for the situation. And I feel like that's the part that a lot of people miss.
Right.
Like determining when is it appropriate to do this? When is it appropriate to do that? Whereas a lot of people just practice shooting on the move or getting into and out of a position certain ways. But how in the world and I know it comes with experience, number one, and competing at that high level, but that's the fine minutia I'm talking about, where it's like, exactly at what time do I know this is better than this? And it doesn't come necessarily, you're not going to learn that during the match. You've got to know that before.
Right.
Get to the match and then recognize at the time, like, oh, this is it. That's the type of stuff I feel like there's a market for, but not a lot of people know that.
Interesting. That's a good point. I would argue that at a big match, especially for the super squad guys, at least for me, there are two stage plans. One is the stage plan that's the most technically efficient way to shoot the stage, right? Everything else aside, the most technically efficient, fastest, best way on paper to shoot the stage. And then there's the way that plays to your strengths and avoids your weaknesses. And that's a separate plan sometimes than the most technically efficient. Sometimes you suck it up because the cost outweighs, or the benefit outweighs the cost. Like if something's a little awkward to reload from this position to this position, if it's way faster, you do it, right? A little discomfort, you can deal with that if it gives you back half a second or a second. Like that's a big difference. But if by shooting this target from 10 yards farther away, when you're going to see it later on, like, yes, maybe you add a transition or like there's some other factor, but your risk factor is mitigated by doing it this particular way. Depending on your skill capability, it might be better, even though it's not technically the most efficient stage plan. So I think there are two stage plans. One is legitimately the best way, and then there's the best way for you. And you need to pick and choose which aspects of both plans to use or not.
Okay. Yeah. And Steve Anderson's probably said it better than I have, but
I love that guy, by the way. He's awesome.
Yeah, he is. And he had mentioned how I think he read a letter on one of his podcasts from one of his students, and he said the biggest thing I learned at your class, and it was one of those where he taught and then he stayed with them during a match and worked with them, kind of like coached them. Mm-hmm. And the guy said the biggest thing I learned was how to compete, and that's what I mean. There's so much little fine minutia on how to actually compete and be competitive, even based on what your skill level is. Obviously, there's drills and other things you can do to improve your skill and ability. But that doesn't mean that you can still be the best guy at the top of the match. That may not be the best shooter out there, but he understands the finer points of competing in a USPSA match more so than the guy who may or may not be, quote unquote, more gifted. You know what I mean?
Right. I would argue that at Canik Optics Nationals, I wasn't the best shooter, but I was the best competitor at that match last year. I think the best shooter at Canik Optics Nationals in 2022 was Isaac Lockwood.
Interesting. He's definitely the fastest.
So Isaac can do some things that I haven't been able to match yet. Like his draw, like my draw has gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. Like Isaac's draw is on another level. Isaac's not afraid to shoot fast. Isaac can shoot fast and accurate. So I think from that standpoint, Isaac was the best shooter at the match. I'm just a better competitor. I've been doing it longer. Like I understand I don't have to win every stage at the match in order to be competitive, where he's still figuring that out. And I think this year Isaac will have a much better showing. So I think that'll be fun to watch.
I kind of feel the same way almost with, and I agree with that assessment. But I also think Brantley Merriam is going to be another one. He's got quickness, accuracy, confidence. Mm-hmm. And the two of them are going to be very interesting to watch as the years go on.
Yeah. Another one to add to that list would be Tom Castro.
Right? Yes. Yep.
I mean,
but he's also cheating. He's 6'9". I mean,
well, and he shoots a Canik. But yeah.
And he shoots a Canik. There you go.
And then if we get David Bradley back into USPSA, that would be another top competitor at Nationals. So
I feel like there is that, like you're saying, he still has to learn that. But that's where I'm saying I feel like there is a spot there that isn't being really taught by anybody and how to do that. But the number of people that could teach it is pretty small. It's a small group of people that understand that, I'm sure Eric Graffel could. I'm sure Rob Latham could. I'm sure you could. There's, or at least, if people picked your brains, they could come up with this is what they're doing and this is how they're figuring it out. But that's just a small group of people.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It might be worth putting a curriculum together for. Can't talk.
It's SHOT Show catching up with you.
I know, right? I've actually had one good night's sleep since SHOT Show. I'll have you know.
Okay, slowly but surely.
That's right. And I won that IDPA match I shot the following Saturday after I drove home. By the way.
Well, I would expect nothing less, actually. So I'm not surprised.
I'm actually about to post an Instagram video of my first load and make ready at that match, where it's just a complete disaster, just trying to put bullets in the gun. I was so out of it.
Well, and here is the question that I did not ask you 2 years ago, but it's Jay Beal's favorite question.
Okay.
And that is, what does your make ready / visualization look like? So when the RO says to Nils Jonasson, make ready, what does that look like? What's running through your head and what are you doing?
Well, what's running through my head is as little as possible, but that's not always realistic.
Okay.
Sometimes it helps to, figure out a way to ground yourself and calm yourself down if you're in a real stressful situation, and that's going to look different for everybody. But if I have to remind myself something while I'm making ready, which can be helpful, it'll be usually one of three things. I'm either reminding myself to grip the gun correctly, if that's something I've been slacking on for the match, like I'm letting the gun kick me around and do that, like either grip the gun or look at the targets, which in my brain means focus on the targets. Like, don't do that transition focus back and forth as if I'm shooting iron sights, or something to do with the trigger press. But generally, it's reminding myself to either look at the target or grip the gun correctly. So it's like picking one thing to focus on rather than letting the brain run wild and go all over the place. Like, let it narrow down on something specific that's actually attainable in the moment that you can utilize rather than being all scattered.
Do you ever run through your stage plan one last time while you're there making ready?
Sometimes if it's a complicated array or like technical shooting position, yes. But generally, I'm not going to do your 2-minute long GM make ready with all that crap. I mean, that's not my style.
So how long does your make ready normally last?
Well, I've had make readies take 5 seconds, and I've also had 2-minute make ready. So it depends on the situation.
Okay.
At Carry Optics Nationals last year, it was stage 1, and it was a strong hand weekend only stage. Well, freestyle, strong hand, and the second string was freestyle weekend. Right. And the first string, normal make ready, go through like the foot placement one last time in my head, and remind myself to my one specific thing, right? Which for one-handed shooting is just put on the target, like just do everything right, because there's so many things that can go wrong. Like a little bit extra time is time well spent on a low hit factor stage where anything outside of the center of the target is either a no shoot or a miss or multiple points down shooting minor. Like, it's a big deal. So my first make ready was about 20-30 seconds, so a standard make ready. The second make ready for the second string was probably 1.5 minutes. And that's because after the first string, I was like super excited, like just like crazy excited and pumped up on the stage. And it was a freestyle reload weekend course of fire after that. And I was like freaking out. I'm like, okay, just calm down a little bit, breathe a little bit, relax. Like, you're not in any hurry to get this next string done. So that was a very long make ready for me. So it really depends on the situation.
Did you start in the same place for both strings, or did you
I did.
start? Okay. I started at opposite ends, so.
Oh, really? Okay.
I did because, you know, we talk about strengths and you know, shooting to your strengths versus your weaknesses. I felt more comfortable going the opposite direction weak-hand than I did when I was just shooting strong hand. So that's why I did it opposite. But
if you want a good soundbite, one that sounds really good is train your weakness, race your strength. Which basically means if you suck at something, practice that, work on it like crazy, make it a strength. But in a competition, in a major match, race your strengths. What you're good at is what you want to utilize. And if you can avoid what you're weak at, try and avoid it. So train your weakness, race your strength.
There we go. That'll be an isolation soundbite there.
I'm sure somebody else said it before me, but
that's okay. Well, that's what I've got, Nils. Is there anything else you want to add or any plugs, anything?
No, I mean, Canik Firearms, I mean, check us out. If you've watched, tell you what, actually, for your viewers, if you've watched to this point in the podcast, I want to give you guys something. So check out, so I'm wearing the new Choose Your Rival t-shirt.
Okay.
How about we do a giveaway for your viewers? So I will send them one of these t-shirts. I have a medium, a large, extra large, and double XL. So whatever size they need, I can send out. But let's do a giveaway to one person that, you know, comments, I want a Rival shirt or something like that. What do you say?
Okay.
All right.
How are we going to select them?
I don't know. Well, you figure something fancy out for some random draw. I don't want to have anything to do with that.
Okay. All right.
But you tell me who to ship a shirt to, and I will get it in the mail.
All right. I can do that.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Nils. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, and I will see you on the range.
Until next time.
Don't be a little bitch.
Yeah.